I am just being joined right now by Mr. Madden. We all became familiar with him at the bind-over hearing. He actually saw the tot, baby Cooper, pulled from the car dead. Mr. Madden, thank you for being with us.
No problem, Ms. Grace.
Mr. Madden, I understand that you were there and you were with a colleague, and she was very upset, and you stepped over to see why she was upset. When you saw what was happening, what was the first thing you observed?
The first thing after noticing that the body that was laying on the hot pavement was in fact a 2-year-old toddler, I was about 4 or 5 feet away from him, of course that being Cooper, and then Mr. Ross, I was about 3 feet away from him, and he was hysterical. He was crying out. He was screaming. He was hollering, "My son, oh my God, my son is dead, oh my God." It just seemed very real, very organic.
Yes, I noticed. That was the phraseology you used on the stand. I want to get back to the child. You stated you were 4 or 5 feet away from baby Cooper. What did you observe about him?
Well, honestly, Nancy, he looked clean. I saw no bruises. I saw no abrasions. His hair wasn't pulled back. It wasn't
Well, was
wet.
he laying on his back or his stomach?
He was laying on his back.
Okay, because the abrasions mostly are on the back of the head where we believe he was banging up against his car seat trying to get out. So was he pale?
No, he looked normal. He just was lifeless.
Now, were the child's eyes and mouth open at that time? Because we learned during the hearing that the child's eyes were open, the mouth was open, and the tongue was protruding, and the lips had turned bluish. That was the testimony by the police. What, if anything, did you observe?
I saw none of that. And again, I was about 4 or 5 feet away from him. He looked normal. I saw no discoloration. His eyes were definitely closed. His mouth was definitely closed.
Interesting. And what were police? When did they move the father to the back of the police car? Did you hear him yell out at the cops, "F you"?
Well, this was after one of the police officers had spoken very abrasively with him. And, of course, he didn't have his ball bearings together, so he did yell "F you" to her, and then they approached him.
When you say the cop spoke abrasively to him, what did she say?
Well, she wanted him to step back, and she said, "Get back." But, of course, he wanted to, see after his son and see what they were doing.
Oh, really? Because was he performing CPR? Because we were told the minute other people got there, he quit administering aid and stood back and got on the cell phone. Was that not correct?
Well, when I was approaching, that is accurate. When I was approaching, other people had came in, and perhaps they told him that they worked in the medical field or they had some history with giving or administering CPR.
Well, do you know that they said that, or are you just guessing that they said that? Did you hear someone say, "Step back, I'm a nurse," or "I'm a doctor"?
I wouldn't want to speculate, Nancy. However, in a situation like that, I'm sure in the event I had history, I would want to tell the father that I did have history as opposed to being a novice and operating or just checking on someone's child.
So, but if you did not observe it, what you did observe is the father 4 or 5 feet away from the child, and other people were giving the child CPR. Were the other people EMTs?
No, they weren't. They were just
really
sensitive to the situation, saddened by the situation. They were just trying to help out.
And they were giving EMT? Was anybody giving EMT to the child?
EMT actually didn't arrive until later.
Well, was anybody giving CPR to the child? Let me rephrase that.
As I was approaching.
They were?
Yes.
Okay, and those were just standers by?
I wouldn't be able to tell because, again, I was approaching as they were doing it.
Now, I'm not quite sure why the father ended up in the back of the car, in the back of the police car. When he yelled out "F you" to the police, I think that pretty much sealed it. What was he doing in the back of the police car?
Well, he was sitting there, and then there were homicide detectives that came. He was about 100 feet away in a squad car, and they came and they began to speak with him. But he wasn't acting out. He wasn't being violent in the back of the car.
Well, he was
normal.
handcuffed, right?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't he handcuffed?
He was handcuffed, yes.
Well, okay. With me, everyone, is Mr. Madden, who we all remember testifying at the hearing with crucial evidence. He is also taking your calls. Back to